Next, though, is humanity in the age of exponential tech and technologies. Questions that are going to be asked in the next session. What will cryptocurrencies do to undermine or to enhance national financial policies? What jobs will autonomous robots and vehicles take or create? How will artificial intelligence write but also apply the laws of the future? Again, those are the questions, and we've got just the person to help us get to the answers. Someone who formerly held the role as senior social technologist at Alpha Telefonica, was also the founder at makers of Barcelona Fab Cafe, allwomen.tech, amongst a number of other achievements and roles. Currently founder and principal of Futurity Systems, providing futures as a service to help you, to help companies and organizations to build better, to build faster, and to build together. Absolute pleasure to have her here in Dubai. Please welcome to GX Talks, Cecilia Tam.
I want to thank you all. You guys have been extremely patient. We have been sitting here for about 3 hours now, so I promise I am going to give you a not boring presentation. Okay, so a little bit about me. I am a mother, I am a founder, I am a maker, but above all, I am this weirdo that is, navigating this new initiative we're calling Futurity Systems. You're going to ask me what exactly is Futurity Systems. So we at Futurity Systems, we provide future as a service. So we do a couple of things, right? From one hand, we take on and understand the state of the art using a platform that we have created called Futurity Science Tool. Once we have understand the capability and the possibility of the technology, we do a little bit of time traveling. We do what we're calling synthesizing future, where we try to kind of map out what is possible, the future products, future services that we can imagine. And then we do prototyping, so tangible software, hardware prototypes that we can gain first-hand insight. And finally, we create the roadmap towards this future that we want. So this is what we do. I have a little confession to make. This is my first time ever to Dubai, and actually the first time ever in this region. So my first talk ever, so please be gentle. And I have been asked today to talk about exponential technologies. Actually, humanity in the age of exponential technologies. So I want to take a step back and kind of define what is even an exponential technologies, right? So these are technologies that have been growing either power or speed or even quantity, doubling every year. So I'm going to give an example. This is kind of sort of all the hype these recent months, ChatGPT. So the training model has been growing, actually far more than doubling in the past few years, and the capability has been growing. In fact, the adoption rate for ChatGPT has been, if I remember correctly, over 1 million users in just a few days. So, which means that these exponential technologies actually have exponential impact, right? And we're talking about the good all the way to the bad and the ugly and the whole entire spectrum in between. So, we were talking about these questions that, in reality, how are we going to answer and tackle these things that are very, very far in the future? How can we understand how cryptocurrency will impact financial policies, for example? How can we imagine what jobs we're going to lose to with AI and robotics? And how can we even understand how, law could be impacted by AI? And these are just one of the few, many other questions that we need to answer today and not wait for the future to happen unintentionally. So there's this framework that I absolutely love. It's called The Pace Layers by Stuart Brandt. He wrote a book called The Book of the Long Now, The Clock of the Long Now, back in 1999. And I use this as an understanding for the pace of change. So the way this works is that on the very bottom layer, you have nature. So evolution, as we know, is very, very slow. So as you work up to the layer, these layers change faster and faster. All the way up, you have layers like fashion, where you're changing on a daily basis, and even imagination, where you're changing by the seconds, right? So the top layers actually provide for innovations. These are layers that are changing faster, they are more agile, they're more experimental. And the bottom layers provide for stability, the foundation, and even because they are slower layer, they keep the memories of the upper layer. And together, this whole entire system then create what actually Robert was talking about earlier, the resiliency of our society, right? But what happens when the pace layer has been disrupted, right? So what we're actually seeing is that, you have government in the middle layer, and the faster layer above, they're actually changing faster than the government can manage. And you have the bottom layer, the slower layer, they're also changing faster than the government is expecting. So what we have right now is a very disrupted pace layers that are not evolving at the same speed. And so Robert, already I'm going to keep mentioning Robert because I think there's a lot of overlapping in what we are envisioning. And so, you have these faster layer above that are changing faster. You have the bottom layer and climate change also that are changing in much faster speed. And what is left behind is that governance need to keep up. So the question that I have is that how can government prepare for all of these uncertainties that are to come? How can we speed up the innovation cycle for the government so that we are in the same cycle of evolvability? So coming back to the pace layers, the role of the government is absolutely crucial because it is the glue of all of these layers. The government layer is what is providing or activating or stabilizing either direction all the other layers in this pace layer system framework. And they are the one actually to set the pace of change for our society to come. So the role of the government is absolutely crucial, right? So what government needs actually are new tools and new methodologies and even new technologies to tackle these oncoming changes, right? So I wanted to spend some time in the next few minutes on practical guide that we can adopt or start changing within the government itself so that we can adopt this mindset. So the first one, I called it rigorously imaginative. And so I have a background in biology and science, and I'm also have a degree in design and art. And I'm really trying to kind of bridge these two very opposite worlds, right? And the way we approach this is that we're really trying to understand the capability of science and technology, but then map it with design and imagination so that then we can push the boundaries of what is capable. So this is the first thing that when we think about future, we try to approach it from bridging these two aspects. The second one is we look intentionally at threats and opportunities. So if we look at future from a company perspective, very often than not, and when we talk about future for a company, we talk about growth. And there's really only two ways to grow from a company. You either grow with creating new products, or you're growing by tapping into new markets, right? But from a government standpoint, what you really wanted to look at is this position called next and beyond. And in order to tackle the next and beyond, we need to look at opportunities and threats. And so we need to start looking at different consequences that are happening with some of the technologies and solutions that we are coming up today. And so how do we become intentional about thinking about consequences? So we have this tool called the futurescaping tool, where we force ourselves to think about a future scenario through different consequences that might happen in those scenarios. Because essentially, what will happen with the positive consequences is that those are opportunities that we need to capture. And for the negative consequences, we need to start thinking preemptively about the solutions so that those negative consequences will not happen. We need to start thinking beyond, we need to think longer term, and we need to think in extreme. What do I mean by that, right? So we also try to apply this three-horizon framework where, very often than not, we think about, first and foremost, the imagination side. So we think about, okay, what is possible? But then we start validating it. The first validation point is that we started to ask ourselves the question, well, is this scientifically possible? Because from there, then we can start asking, well, okay, so there's evidence or a scientific paper that is telling us that, yes, this is possible. Then we jump to the next validation point. It says, just because it is scientifically possible doesn't mean that it is scalable. And that is a question, that is an engineering question. So there, we look at evidence in patents and a transfer of technology to give us indications where this is growing and maturing in that direction. And once we have validated that, yes, you can do it in science, yes, we can do it at scale, we need to ask ourselves the question of if there is an applicability, is there a use case, is there a business case for this? And there we look at evidence in businesses, in startups, in funding, and even in companies to tell us where the state of the art is for that particular data point. We also need to start thinking beyond just the immediate consequences, right? And we need to think about consequences of consequences. And we call them the first, second, third order of consequences to really think about far future horizons and impacts that these technologies have today. Because at the end, we are actually living in a period of time when we are living in the unintended consequences of the previous generations, of the decisions that they have made. So we need to be intentional about the decisions we are making today for the future generations to come. We also need to think from multiple perspectives, not only from the political perspective, from across the spectrum, from social to economic, environmental, all the way to technological, so that we can understand how all of these consequences will be unfolded. We also need to think through the different contextual implications in how these future scenarios will play out, right? From emergent cities and slums in emergent cities, all the way to our urban environment, and even in Mars or in underwater. How can these different scenarios play out? And lastly, I'm a huge advocate about thinking futures through different lenses, right? Our current discourse about futurism is very much driven from a Western understanding of futures. What if we start introducing Sino-futurism, for example, so future from the East, or Arab futurism with different cultures and traditions as a framework on understanding future? And I'm even going to push the limit a little bit. And what if we start thinking about futures from the plant's perspective, and we call that herbal futurism, or even from the bacteria perspective, and we call that microbial futurism, right? I'm trying to push the envelope a little bit, but we need to think beyond ourselves and think about the implications of other ecosystems in terms of building a diverse dialogue about futurism. So, let me go back a few slides. Doing is the best kind of thinking, and here I am trying to kind of promote prototyping as a way to think through. So right now, it is far cheaper, faster, and even bring more insights in when you're trying to prototype than having a meeting itself. And so we build lots and lots of prototypes because the cost for failure, or I call it learning, is far less then the insights that you will gain. So here I'm going to show a couple of prototypes that we do at the office. On the very bottom is my favorite, Herbie. Herbie is an autonomous plant. Herbie can make certain decisions. Herbie walks around the office, can make decisions about water and light, but can also talk. And Herbie also have a bank account because we're trying to build an interspecies economy. On the top right, you have the tomato. So tomato is a project where we're thinking about, can we cultured meat cells inside a tomato, creating a plantable meal that you can grow at home. Another project that I would like to show is this one where I am licking an electronic popsicle. And so here we're trying to induce taste without food itself, even stretching it to see if we can play music or if we can taste music with this device. And the last one that I wanted to show is the top center, which is a new magazine that we are publishing called Intense. And Intense is a magazine, it's set in 2030 to kind of look at the lifestyle of what could be possible in 2030. So to wrap up, I wanted to mention that countries are already being invested in understanding how to look at these far future projects. And so moonshot projects are popping up everywhere. From Germany, Spring D, to UK Aria, and Japan Mariah. I wanted to especially mention about Spain, where we are the official partners to build the Moonshot Factory to solve these global challenges. So lastly, I wanted to say that we need to rehearse, because the more we rehearse, the more prepared we are, the more insights we gain, and the better decisions that we can make. So back to the questions that we were asking ourselves earlier, I will challenge all of you to kind of pivot and rewrite those questions so that we can come from a much more proactive standpoint. So instead of asking what cryptocurrency they can impact us, we need to ask how might we apply blockchain to strengthen our financial futures, right? Instead of asking about what jobs AI will take, we're gonna be proactive about how we can prepare our workforce to be more skilled. Instead of asking about how AI will impact our law and our future, we should ask how we can build AI that is more accessible and unbiased. So with that, I want to wrap up. I just wanted to say, instead of future proving and future ready, we need to be future building. So thank you all, and I will see you in the future.